Now there was about this time Jesus, a wise man if it be lawful to call him a man. For he was a doer of wonders, a teacher of such men as received the truth with pleasure. He drew many after him both of the Jews and the Gentiles. He was the Christ. When Pilate, at the suggestion of the principal men among us, had condemned him to the cross, those that loved him at the first did not forsake him. For he appeared to them alive again the third day, as the divine prophets had foretold these and 10,000 other wonderful things about him. And the tribe of Christians, so named from him, are not extinct at this day.
Notes on the Christian Josephus. This is the one that certain Christians prize for its relationship in affirming Christian gospel creed and narratives. However, the early Christian theologian Origen contradicts this account from the documents he had seen. Origen does not appear to have seen this version. You will also recall this Christianized Josephus testimony mirrors Paul the Apostle's statement of what the Jews and Greeks in general demand: wonders and wisdom. Paul wrote in 1 Corinthians, "For Jews demand miraculous signs and Greeks ask for wisdom." This testimony provides this to the general target audience. Ironically, for the Christian Josephus testimony, Paul follows the demands he states from the Jews and Greeks with this statement: "But we preach Christ crucified, a stumbling block to Jews and foolishness to Gentiles." Also in Matityahu sayings, there is a strain of tradition preserved where no signs are given but the sign of Jonah only. This testimony also reflects the Gospel's understanding of the target audience. The Gospels are full of miracles and wisdom. The Gospels also do have sayings of Jesus that have the apocalyptic preserved. Herod Antipas demands to see Jesus perform miracles in Luke, and Pilate in John engages Jesus in asking a philosophical wisdom question. What is truth?
Now there was about this time Jesus, a wise man, for he was a doer of wonders. He drew many after him. When Pilate, at the suggestion of the principal men among us, had condemned him to the cross, those that loved him at the first did not forsake him, and the tribe of Christians, so named from him, are not extinct at this day.
Notes on the scholarly edit of Josephus. James Tabor comments on the popular Christian testimony and why the edit is justified. The testimony to Jesus is more problematic since it has been so heavily interpolated by medieval Christian copyists. However, we are more than fortunate that these pious scribes had such heavy hands, since their additions appear to be so blatant and obvious in both placement and phrasing. Scholars have worked on this text quite extensively, and I recommend the summary discussion by John Meyer, A Marginal Jew, Rethinking the Historical Jesus.
I want to start with a text that has nothing to do with John, but I want to play a little exercise with you. This is Josephus's famous testimony to Jesus, and I put in red, all caps, the words that are generally considered to be an interpolation. Now, you have hyper-skeptics like the so-called Jesus mythers, and by the way, Bart Ehrman's book is pretty good on this mythological idea, which Tina and I certainly believe Jesus existed and a lot more than that. But you have people who say, well, this is just a complete Christian interpolation. If I put here John Meyer's book, A Marginal Jew, he has a wonderful discussion of this. Look at that. It's like 10 or 11 pages, this testimony of Josephus. I do this with my students every year, and you know what I do? I take out the red and the caps, and I tell them, read this text from Josephus. I give them my own translation, and I say, strike out the phrases that you think might have been added for theological reasons. In other words, strip it down to history. What do you think? Because we read Jewish War, believe it or not, in my New Testament class, we actually read the Jewish War. Obviously, we can't absorb it all, but I have the students buy the little paperback because I want them to read something from the period. Take a look at this. Now, at this time, Jesus, a wise man, if it be lawful to call him a man, would you go with that? We need a little ding. If you think it's fake, you go ding. A teacher of such men has received the truth with pleasure. Ding. He drew many after him, both of the Jews and the Gentiles. He was the Christ. I don't think so. When Pilate, at the suggestion of the principal men among us, had condemned him to the cross, those that loved him at first did not forsake him. Look at this. For he appeared to them alive again on the third day, as the divine prophets had foretold. These and then 10, that should be 10, that's a typo, 10,000 of other wonderful things about him. Sorry, I was going to correct it, but forget it. And the tribe of Christians so named after him are not extinct at this day. So that's pretty easy, isn't it? I mean, if you strip it down, you get something like this Arabic version. Christian interpolators, as Bart Ehrman has reminded us, they're two things. They're dumb and they're very passionate. Like, they'll put, he's the Christ, he died on a cross in an ancient text that's supposed to be written in the 1st century BC. You know, they're just not that acute historically. They're not like modern forgers that can really fool experts. They're just, I hate to use the word dumb, but, you know, they're not up to our historical standards. So here, Shlomo, he found an Arabic version that is not touched by the Christians. And look, it's just like the version we just created.
At this time there was a wise man who was called Jesus, and his conduct was good, and he was known to be virtuous. And many people from among the Jews and the other nations became his disciples. Pilate condemned him to be crucified and to die. And those who had become his disciples did not abandon their loyalty to him. They reported that he had appeared to them 3 days after his crucifixion, and that he was alive. Accordingly, they believed that he was the Messiah, concerning whom the prophets have recounted wonders.
Notes on the Arabic Josephus source. You will see that it is good conduct and virtue highlighted, not miracles. Much support among the Jews, a man and a Messiah. Also note the statement, Pilate condemned him to be crucified and to die without the added alliance of the principal Jewish leaders. The source is called Kitab al-Unwan, written by Agapius of Manbij, who lived in northern Syria. It is published by Shlomo Pines, an Arabic version of the Testimonium Flavianum and its implications. Scholar James Tabor commented, some years ago Professor Shlomo Pines found a different version of this passage in an Arabic version of Josephus dating to the 10th century CE. It has obviously not been interpolated in the same way as the Christian version circulating in the West, and it reads remarkably close to our non-interpolated. Notice that loyalty is the chief quality given to his followers, many Jewish, something the Gospel of Mark that is the main bone structure of our gospel narratives, influenced possibly by Pauline theology over the James Jerusalem Jewish group. The Gospel of Mark narrative sought to undermine the loyalty of the Jewish followers and the family of Jesus and highlight Gentile believers for the audience.